I'm Stephanie Velegol. I haven't met you. I've met so many of you. I do want to thank the organizers. This has been outstanding. Just to meet people and talk to people and generate ideas. And I'm sure, like many of you, I have a whole list of ideas of things that I can go back and do, and collaborators and that kind of thing. And I know that was one of the purposes. So I really appreciate that. And so we have one more thing to generate some ideas. And I was furiously changing this right before, partially because of some of the ideas that I've gotten. So so I have two acronyms now. So I'll give you one and then we'll give you the other. So really the goal of this, I mean, we've heard a lot about a lot of ideas, and the goal of this is to apply research-based principles to flip your class. I mean, there's so many questions about how do I flip it, what works best, what doesn't work best, and that kind of thing. And so when I first started flipping, I've been flipping for about 5 years. It sounds funny, right? I've been flipping for 5 years. When I first started flipping, the question was, what's the best way to do it? And I don't know, I guess I didn't go yesterday. Did anyone go to the horror stories session? You did? Did that sound good?
No one had flipped the classroom there, so.
Like going to see if they could find out some horror stories, right? Okay. So before we start, does anybody have a horror story they're willing to share? You know, it's sort of hard to put yourself out there, right? Anybody flip a class and it just, yeah.
Well, my horror story isn't so much that during class flipping, but I had a colleague trash my entire class because I used to flip the classroom. That it was a complete waste of time and attacking my class, my curriculum in general, and me personally for doing this.
Any specific reason, like any reason that?
Crashing to the students or other faculty?
Yeah.
To me directly. And said, well, he did send an email to my chair and the associate dean saying that I was to blame for 20 years of bad engineers that came out of our school.
Does anybody else feel horrified?
I was in middle school 20 years ago. Yeah.
So actually, let's unpack that a little bit, if you don't mind. Thanks for putting yourself out there like that. That's pretty.
I said thank you for the information. It will be duly considered, and walk away.
Any specific reason? I mean, is it a he?
He.
I shouldn't assume he, but.
Older gentleman by any chance?
Yes.
He is. Did he have specific reasons, or just a general insult?
Just that there was no way that the material was too complex to do it in this format.
Too complex. I'm just going to start making a list here. Too complex. Okay. Any other?
Let's see, he said that. He said I was spending too much time focusing on applications and not enough time on theory.
Okay.
And
I'm assuming in the classroom? Or in
just
general?
in general.
Okay.
The class was too practical oriented, and
Okay.
the other one was about the writing component that I have with it, that
Okay.
I shouldn't bother to require the students to write in an engineering course.
That you should or should not?
Should not.
Okay. Are these specific to flipped? I mean, it sounds like this
No,
is
this was specifically to the flipped.
to the flipped. Okay.
Yes.
No writing. Okay. Thanks for sharing that. Anybody else? Yeah.
I personally haven't flipped, but I've heard of a horror story.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
which was the student evaluation, and I don't know how plural this is. Said something like, it would have been nice if the professors had actually taught.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
You know, similarly, I had a student who resisted every class. Fortunately, she came around at the end, but every class she would just say, I can't learn this way. I just need professors to tell me what to do. and I'll do it. So every time she made a remark like that, and she wasn't really antagonistic, I'm so lucky, she was open-minded, so every class, I had to respond to that. I had to, well, the body of research suggests this, and then finally, halfway through the class, she got a B on the midterm, and that was it. I said, look, it's working, you're doing great, you can learn this way, and the second half of the class was awesome. But the first half was very tough. Every class, I had to explain and justify what I was doing and why.
Change is hard. Change is hard.
Yeah, mine's going to be the same type of thing. I started recording videos a few months ago, and I had a number of students. They were not used to it, they'd never seen it, and they were pissed that I was making them do something new. And, you know, you can't learn this way, you're not teaching anything, why don't you do your job? For a few of them. When I surveyed the classes, it was about 15 to 20% that were upset. The rest of them loved it.
Yeah.
They loved it. They could see the videos again, that they could pause, go back, whatever. Some of the biggest complainers were the A+ type students that they had something mastered and they didn't want to master something else.
Yeah. This is great. I want to come back to this. Oh, go ahead.
I have one more. It's not really a
Yeah.
horror story, but it's a colleague of mine who described herself as a radical flipper. And the first time she ran it through, she admits this publicly, so I'm not reaching confidences. She had the students watch videos and only had new problems in class. And she didn't lecture at all, in mini lecture, any sort of mini lecturing at all during a class. And then she decided that was a horror for her. Her course evaluations were much lower, and that was her radical flipping stage.
Okay.
She has not left.
Because
she was assuming that she was doing no instruction in class.
Okay.
And
No
having
instruction.
only being the teamwork, problem solving, let's discuss problems format. And that was her.
Well, I think, one of maybe the goal of this workshop is to help us, and I have the way that I've done it, and that's not necessarily going to be the way that you all do it, but to identify some of the concerns with flipping. First, we're going to talk about the positive things about flipping, because there are so many positive things that we just started to hear about, and I want to talk about why we're doing it. But then I want to talk about what are some potential pitfalls, what are some horror stories that can happen, what are some challenges in flipping, and we'll enumerate those specifically so you can start thinking about those. But then I want to talk about, okay, what specifically can we do to address these challenges? And I'll give you some recommendations that I've made, that I make based on some evidence that we've gotten. But I really want this to be, again, this is just what I found. Everyone's going to be different, but I think we need to address those challenges so that we don't have some of these horror stories. So let me just tell you why I decided to flip. So this is an overused image of me, but so I teach a large meaning 80 to 90 student class. It's an introduction to environmental engineering for civil engineers. It's a 3rd year course required for all civil engineers, and I teach them chemistry. So we can put that out there, okay? And so I was teaching the way we've all probably learned to teach, which was the lecture format, and then the homework was due on the Friday, and then I had office hours on the Thursday. And so one time, I'm kind of preaching the choir here, but I'll comment anyway. So at the time, I was a part-time instructor. I had a large shared office with a bunch of other instructors, and we had a large table and a big blackboard, which I no longer have in our office. But so for office hours, students came, and you all know what this is like, right? So I had about 6 or 7 students. What were they coming for? Homework help. I want to know how to do this homework problem, okay? So I said, okay, I have a question about number 3. So Charles says, I have a question about number 3. I said, okay, what's your question? Okay, good. So then I would go to the board, and what would I do? I would re-lecture on what I already told them in class. But in class, there was no real reason for them to get it, right? They just dutifully writing down what I was saying, but now he needed it for the homework. So when I redid the lecture again, most of it, he understood it. Oh, that makes sense. Then he asked good questions. We go back and forth. The other students are there. He solves the problem. Okay, then Susan, not the real name, Susan comes in and says, I have a question about problem number 3. I say, Charles, can you explain to Susan what I just explained to you? Now we've got peer-to-peer instruction. I move on to another student. And I'm sitting there, and I had already created some online lectures, not the right way, but I had them for a summer course that I was teaching. And so I realized, wow, if I could replicate this with the other 70 students who are not in my office right now, they're at home, banging their head against the wall, cheating, I don't know what they're doing, okay, maybe they're getting it, but I wanted to replicate. This was fun teaching, right? My mom's an educator, principal, superintendent. She did workshops like this all the time, for K through 12 teachers. So I knew what learning looked like. And I hadn't been seeing it. So I also taught at Bucknell for a few years, and those guys know what real learning is. So I'm watching this going, this is what I want to see, right? I think many of you feel that way. I wanted to see that interaction. I wanted to see that deeper understanding in the classroom. And so what I wanted to see instead of this was this. So same classroom, and notice the camera is turned. Instead of being from the back of the classroom, I'm now turning it towards the students, and I want to see them learning. So my goal number one was to engage students in problem solving and just-in-time learning. So that just-in-time learning is, okay, here's a problem, we're going to work on it right now, and the students are much more engaged. But actually I had a secondary goal as well, and there were a lot of things, especially for this class, that I wanted them to see. And I wanted them to see real-life examples in the field. I wanted to take them on field trips. I wanted them to hear from guest speakers. I wanted to bring in real-life examples and discuss them as a group and do brainstorming. And I wanted to do all that, but what was the problem? Time, content, right? We need to prepare these students to pass FE exam. That's one of our goals. We need to prepare the students so that they can do well in the subsequent courses that are coming after mine. If I don't cover that content, I'm not doing my job. But I felt like there's more to this content. I want to inspire students. I just don't want to teach them technical content, which I am doing, but I also want to inspire them. So part of the goal of this course was to get them interested or engaged in environmental engineering. Okay, I don't want them to, like one student last semester drew a picture of a big truck with black smoke coming out of it covering up a Prius. That was on a quiz on global climate change. Right? He wants to buy the truck, now he need a Prius, okay? So I'm trying to, have more effective change and inspire them as well.
What happened to your other 60 students?
The other 60?
Yes, you've got
Oh,
23 in this picture.
yeah. So here's the problem with the field trip. I had 80 students, and the wastewater treatment plant on campus, we have our own wastewater treatment plant, very impressive, says you cannot bring 80 students to the wastewater treatment plant. One of them will likely fall in, okay? That's bad, by the way, you're falling into activities, let's change, you sink. That's bad news. Anyway, just think about that a little bit. So what do I have to do? I have to split the groups into 3 groups, right? So I have to take a week to go, okay, one group comes Monday, one group comes Wednesday, one group goes Friday. That's a whole week of technical material that I couldn't have covered. So it was very difficult. My colleagues who teach this, who don't, so they do that, but you lose a lot. Now the way I do it is I have a third of the students go here. We have a eco machine on campus that has the same functionality as this one, but it smells better, looks better. Smaller. Anyway, so a third of them go there with my TA, or not my TA, a grader. And they take a third of the students on the bus and meet somebody, a third of the students come with me to this, and then a third gets to stay home. But it's a very good question. And this is a challenge, especially in a large class. It's difficult to do. The students love the field trips. At one point I was doing 5 field trips in one semester. But I mean, that's all course dependent, but that is what I wanted to do. This is right after Hurricane Sandy, actually. Okay, so what I want to hear from you, this will be especially good because we've been at this for a while, and this will help us kind of pull all your thoughts together. So write down, based on whether it's your experience or what you've learned, I told you what I wanted to get out of a flipped classroom. What do you think are the greatest benefits? So I'm going to ask you, you guys know this drill, right? Think about it for a minute or two, and then get in 2 or 3s, share with each other. You can make a list. Okay, go. Are you guys cool if I put this up and just use the one side? Are we okay to do that? Then we can use the board? Oh. I know, I just... Oh, they're recording the slides. Thank you, though. If you haven't already, this is a good time to form a group. You want to join these guys?
I donated some.
Okay, big list. We're gonna have a competition. Who has the most?
So I already know this.
is, I'm not sure. So as we go around the room, I'm just gonna kind of call, everybody want to give one benefit, and we'll come back around, there's more, okay? So we'll start over here, yes. A benefit, just throw it out there.
Sure. Benefit to students is that they can, like, ESL learners.
Okay.
Watch videos over and over again. So
Great. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so. Yeah, that's great. Someone wrote that out at the beginning, and I think that's really important. It's the idea of sometimes the first pass through, especially for students who are English as a second language, it's hard to get, still processing the words, now we're on to something else, right? Somebody compare that to like a river flowing, and the river flows by, and you're like, oh, I miss it, and it's gone, and you can't get it back because the water's all the way down there now, right? So this allows us to come back and see that again. Great, thanks. Is that one?
She's recorded. Listen
The recorder.
in.
Gives them the, for the students, it gives them the scaffolded way of learning to solve the problems.
Okay, tell me more about that. I'm totally messed up. Let me switch this, sorry.
That's a good benefit for faculty too. Especially if the faculty doesn't speak the other language.
Okay, let's go back to that. I'm sorry, scaffolding, tell me more about that.
They're solving problems in class where they're getting assistance from their peers and the professor. Scaffolded solves practicing on problems.
Okay. In the scaffolding, how is that different from what they would do if it wasn't flipped?
If they were doing the problems at home, they're doing it without any help with their professor and possibly without help with their peers.
So would you provide this in the in-class problems? Would you give them kind of a scaffold?
Well, we're there.
Okay, so just the interaction with peers and faculty. So the students don't sort of say like, I don't even know where to start, and they can just kind of start somewhere else and can't. Yeah, that's great. Okay, good, thank you.
I think that we both agree that one of the benefits is we have a greater understanding of what students do and don't understand, or who's kind of maybe a weak student but has a good idea and have the ability to kind of give somebody a pat on the back in a way that you may not have had that opportunity in other classes, structures.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a benefit to both faculty and students, right?
Right.
So as faculty, you have a better sense of what they do and don't understand, and you can also support them appropriately or
So
give them
let me
credit.
just say that way, you can, I don't know how to say it, like see their understanding or something, right?
Yeah.
Or
Better-
not
I think we as instructors will get a better sense of their understanding.
Yeah, but then you said something else too,
But you can give, so you can give them appropriate support
and feedback,
and
yeah.
feedback, whether it's, hey, you did a really good job on that, or, let's talk about this issue you're having with algebra.
But there's this also other piece that I want to unpack in that, which is you get to know your students, right?
Yeah.
Do other people experience that who have flipped, that you get to know your students more? So there's a sort of relationship piece, and that's actually beneficial for both, I think, right? So because you're walking around talking to people, you can, oh, how are you doing with that? And not only do you get to know their name and that kind of thing, but you get to know what they're good at, what they're strength, and so you can give them, I think that's a great point. Thanks. But never been this far.
Probably just one of the things we were talking about toward the end was following up on that was we also zoomed in on seeing what the students understood, but
Yeah.
also on a much more regular basis, not, because we all see what the students understand, don't understand at the midterm and the final, but this is like on a regular, like daily basis almost.
Mhm.
And so we thought that real-time monitoring was actually really
Yeah.
useful.
Actually, for both, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as a faculty member, I find this too. So if you can see right away, wow, all the students are struggling with this part of the problem, what do you do? Okay, we're gonna stop the class for a minute, I just wanna go over this one part. Normally, if they're at home doing homework, you don't see that, right? And so you can't give them that little bit of information. I never solved the whole problem up here for them, but I can say, okay, everyone's stuck on this, let me go over this one piece, and that's sort of that just-in-time learning that we see. Yeah, thanks. Okay. You? Sure.
Social community.
Yeah, I mean, really for both as well, but I'll put it over here for students, right? Has anybody noticed, like, with the flipped classroom, then the students are more likely to find study groups? I know for Penn State, we have such a large student body that they may not know people in their class. There's 2 sections going on of 90 students each. Some of them are repeat, some of them are seniors, some of them are juniors, some of them are different majors, and you've got all these different kids in there. They don't know each other necessarily. So with this, I think this can then lead to, hey, let's all work on this together, let's study together. It allows people to get to know each other, which I think is really important. That's great. Thank you.
Some flexibility, whether that's more content or field trips.
So, yeah. So flexibility in,
Course design.
yeah, that's good. Some flexibility in the way students learn too, right? It gives sort of students opportunities to learn in different ways, so we'll come back to that.
I guess I'll say, letting the students pace themselves with the knowledge acquisition.
Yeah. So I talked yesterday in the motivation talk about one of the things that we found is an improvement in individualization. So that's that the instruction is individualized for the student. And that means that they can learn in different ways. They can watch it once, they can stop it, they can watch it again and again. So that gives them sort of more autonomy or control to learn the way that works for them. That's great.
It ultimately informs your instruction.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of like what we were saying here with the real-time monitoring, but I like that. So gives you immediate feedback or informs, this is what we need to do now based on what the students' needs are. Okay, we're getting to, I don't want to call them people and put them on the spot because we've done so much, but you guys have it all together. You're like, no, we're good.
In a class that has just too much material to get through, which some of them do, the examples you can do, if you're doing a traditional lecture, you just can't do more than like 5-minute examples or whatever.
Yeah.
But with the flipped lesson, you can do the more in-depth, longer problems that might take a half hour to get through something.
Because all the stuff's online already. Yeah, yeah, I like that. And students love that, right? Oh, gee. Yeah, so more examples that they can see. I mean, students are always asking that, aren't they? Can you do another example?
Well, part of our, when we were talking about it also, is it allows an opportunity to put the focus more on the process of problem solving in that context.
Right, not just getting the answer, but the process. Yeah.
And I guess the common theme that we talked about was that it gives the students maybe a better sense of what the field actually is, or it might expand what they think about the topic that you're covering.
So what way would Flip do that? Because you can do more in the class?
Because you can do more examples, or maybe more in-depth examples, and
Yeah.
it could include field trips where you take them to see things outside of what you normally be able to do in the classroom.
Yeah, so expand their view.
So you
Good.
don't even think of that as a benefit to the profession. You know,
That's
that
good.
if you are trying to, if your goal is to prepare people or even draw them to the profession, if you're teaching an introductory level course, you see every intro level course is an advertisement for your field. Then maybe active learning in general and Flip Classroom as one branch of that could help people envision themselves in that profession as doers of that.
Well, especially for teacher preparation too, for teachers seeing you being professional.
Okay, say that again?
Like for students who are preparing to go out and teach, right? They're learning a lot of different ways.
Right, that people could.
Yeah, I mean, I'm at Birmingham State where, you know, we're known for teacher preparation, but I don't have a background in math education. And so I don't feel like I'm necessarily the best model at all times for students to learn from. But if they have a good exposure to different learning styles and methods, they're going to be better prepared to go out and teach.
Right, they can see different students and how they get in and interacting with different kinds of students. It's great. This is a great list. Any other, I mean, I know I only did one per group, so anything that you're just saying I have to, something else you're missing, yeah.
One other thing is for students, I don't know if gives them an opportunity to, I guess it's kind of physical and social community, but it's an opportunity to combat maybe any sense of imposter syndrome they have, because they have the opportunity to observe that they're not necessarily the only ones struggling with content, so it's this opportunity to kind of share in the group experience.
That's great. So let me, I know you, were you a student here?
I was.
Were you in a flipped classroom as a student?
I was not in a flipped classroom, although I was in classes that incorporated many elements of
Okay, okay. Yeah, because that would be interesting. I like this though. So less. We talked about that yesterday a little bit actually in my session as well, that there's this, everyone understand the imposter complex and what that means, sort of this idea that I don't belong here, and someday I'm going to find out that I don't really belong here, and it's just a matter of time until, right? And one of the ways we talked about it yesterday as well is that when students see other students struggling with the same thing, they begin to realize, wait, I'm not the only one who doesn't quite know how to start, or everyone's struggling with the same thing. And so I think you're absolutely right, that's really important.
Just in terms of the research literature, to understand student achievement, it really is about giving appropriate and timely feedback, which I think you really sort of touched on a couple of even the faculty benefits, but it's a huge benefit for students to be able to get the appropriate, for anything from addressing misconceptions or, some of these other things that can happen within the context of having the instructor there as opposed to on their own or peers that may lead them astray,
So one of the things I've never really heard completely addressed that relates to that is one of the advantages of flipped is you can do more assessment.
Yeah.
You can give them formative assessment as well as actually summative assessment, right? So I just had this conversation with the colleagues that I work with, and I'm the only one that flips. I think I'm crazy, but they, one senior colleague was saying, a lot of my colleagues give an exam like the last week of class, which you're not supposed to do, and whatever, or a quiz, and then they don't give a final. And he was saying, well, you put that last quiz during finals so you can cover more material, right? Cover more content. You gotta shove more stuff in there. But what's interesting about flipped is you can do more assessment, right? Which does help the students know what they know and don't know. And it doesn't all have to be summative, it can be formative. And I haven't ever really heard anyone say that explicitly, like, this gives me more time for tests. But that's been my experience. I can do 7 quizzes in a semester where if I try to give up 7 class periods, we wouldn't cover enough, right? But the assessment is where you get to see what the students know, and they get to see what they know, and they get to go back. And so I think that's a big part of it.
or flexibility in the types of assessments, whether it's performance tests that they're doing or something else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So clickers are assessment, right? In-class assignments are assessment. There's lots of ways for the students to, normally in a very traditional class, which is often taught, at least at my institution, you turn in homework, which not that many, maybe 4 homeworks, and you take maybe 2 or 3 exams. That's it. So you have no idea how you're doing until you hit the first exam of week 6. I mean, that is not a lot of feedback. You have no idea whether you know what you're doing or not. So I think that's right. I think all that feedback is so helpful to students. So I think we want to keep this in mind as we think about how we can design our courses to ensure this is true. So let me share with you when we did. So this is all given in a paper that's in advances that I can share with you. But so after I had flipped the course a couple of times, we asked the students. This should be encouraging. We said, okay, you have the opportunity to take a similar course like the next course with the same instructor. That would be me. Would you take the flipped? Would you take the traditional? So I'm going to teach the course traditionally and flipped. Which one would you choose to sign up for? Now, it's not a real life thing. We didn't actually have them choose, but we asked them what they would choose after taking 1 semester flipped with me. And about 2/3 or 77% said they would prefer to take the flipped class given the same instructor. And then we asked them why. And this, I think, has been very insightful because it says, what do the students see as the main benefits? So about 1/3 said, in some way, it was very open-ended, which was great because it gave us a lot of, so these 3 things were not things we said, is it because of flexibility in learning? These are things we pulled out of what they said. So about 35% said, we like flexibility in learning. So they said something like, flipping the course gave us more freedom toward how I want to complete the work. So Daniel Pink calls that autonomy for motivation. So this idea that you get to choose what you want to do. The flexibility in learning. Along with that, but I saw it different, a little bit different, was this idea of reviewing lectures. So we talked about it for ESL students, ESL learners, but it's true for all students. So they would say if I missed something, or I just want to go back, or I just want to go into a daze for a minute. I don't know if we want to go into a daze, maybe we do. We want to go into a daze for a minute, I can go back and watch that part again. Okay, what they really want to say is when I checked my text real quick and I went back, I can go back and watch that video again. And I think that's such a critical piece of what I see students liking about the flipped classroom, is we all check out at some point, right? Like maybe you are right now, or maybe you just did, or maybe I did. I mean, I know I do too, right? So we're humans, we can only focus for not even 10 minutes. They say 10 minutes, I think it's not 10 minutes, right? Especially with our buzzing phones and everything. Okay, so if they're at home and they fall asleep, I mean, right? I mean, that's what I used to do, fall asleep, right? Okay, so, you wake up and the pencil's like down the page, right? Because you fell asleep. All right, that happens. So if they do that and you wake up, the river has passed and it's gone and you can't get it back. So now the students, nobody has to know, they just watch it again. I think that is so critical in this flip. Now you can do it lots of ways, but I just think that is so critical. And that's what the students said without me prompting them at all. About a third said that. And then a third actually said something about, I liked interacting with the peers and faculty during the in-class time. So I found really interesting the fact of solving in-class problems, since I have the opportunity to exchange my ideas with others and have a different perspective of what is shown. So that's kind of what we're talking about, is them getting to know each other, right? We're talking about that group work. But they're actually bringing that up. They like interacting with their peers. They like interacting with their faculty. I've also had quotes of students saying, I'm not going to ask a question in class because I don't want to look like an idiot in front of my friends or in front of my peers. But they're willing to raise their hand and have me walk over and say, I don't know how to get started. You know what I mean? And I say, oh, you don't know how to get started? But, you can get them started. And I think that's a huge part of it, is that they feel like, oh, I can ask this question, and we have 90 students. You gotta, raise your hand. I have no idea what you just said. You're not gonna say that, right? So I think those are some things that the students are pulling out that I think are really important. So I just wanted to give a couple quotes. I decided today to go look at, so this one is a quote just from last semester. I'm sorry, the words are so small, but I wasn't sure about the flip class at first, but I really ended up liking it. It forced me to stay on top of learning the material every week, especially because I tend to procrastinate. The in-class problems forced me to be familiar with the material before class, and that is because when they came in, I gave them an in-class assignment that they had to turn in. So if they didn't watch the video, they're not going to be able to turn that thing in. Now, was that worth a lot? No. Did I drop 3 total class assignments? Yes. But still, it doesn't really matter, right? So it's worth so little, but it doesn't matter. In their mind, they still have to be responsible for this. I really like the setup of having quizzes rather than exams. It helped me to learn each section thoroughly and not cram. And that's what we talked about. You can do more quizzes now because of more time. It helped me to be more successful, blah, blah, blah. So I think that's key. I want to point out one more benefit that the students did say, and we put it in our paper, and that is, I don't know if anyone else has experienced this, but the organization. So the fact that I can say to a student, this week is Module 1. You watch Module 1. Module 1 might be 90 minutes long. Module 2 might be 112 minutes long. If I took that same material and tried to do it in 3 lectures, I might not finish it, or I might finish it early, and now Module 1 is like 2/3 of a week, and Module 2 starts, and then that's a week and a third, right? So this way I'm able to say, this week is this week is that, and when you're teaching, I know I'm teaching a course this semester live without flipping, it's not going to be that way. I'm going to cover as much as I can. When the bell rings, I'm going to put a line through the paper, say this is how far we got, pick up the next day. So I think this organization part is so helpful to students to know exactly what to expect.
Can I add something?
Yes.
We did similar surveys with our students, and they found that they like knowing what the content of the class was going to be before they got into the class. That it wasn't just a title on a page, they actually had a sense of what it was going to be. So it's along those lines that kind of advanced organizing.
Yeah, I think the students really, they know they've got to watch this by this time. Everything is so well organized, which is good. I'm just going to skip that. So let me just say, just to give you a little bit, I've said this is going to be evidence-based. We asked the students in terms of the review, do you review parts of the online lectures that seem unclear? And you can see there are only a few students who never do that. So most of our students at some point are reviewing, or going back and watching that again. That's something that in a live classroom can't happen. So 90% of the students, I did 2 versions of that, that's why there are 2 of these, but 90% of the students, now there are some rarely as well, but I would say at least 50% are sometimes or often rewatching parts of the lecture. So that part of it is being used. So that's something that, and then we said, well, why did you do that? So for what reason are you rewatching the lecture? 55% said they rewatched a lecture because they were distracted the first time. So you think about 55% of the students in a traditional class are distracted. They don't get that opportunity to rewatch the lecture. So those are some pretty honest students, right, saying that. Now these we did prompt them for, so they could check all that apply. So we did prompt them for that. And then a lot of students did it to clear up a misunderstanding, to prepare for the online assessment, for help with homework. And what's, I think, interesting is that less of them actually did it for the summative quiz. This quiz that they're talking about is pretty much the only summative thing we did. So they're not actually using it as much for review, they're using it for help with the stuff that they're doing at home. So I think that's encouraging that they are definitely using that resource. I also get this question, like, do students actually watch the video? So a colleague of mine said that, well, do your students watch it from the beginning until the end? Now, in my mind, I don't really care. But when we first started this, I wanted to know if the students are watching the videos, right? Because we just want to know that. So when I first started, don't judge me, my videos were filmed from the back of the classroom. 50-minute videos, 30 of them, go for it, okay? So that's 5 years ago, so yeah. So we changed that, and then I made 132 videos, which I know sounds like a lot, but they're all real short. And they're broken into 11 modules. So of those, we asked them, like, how many did you actually watch? And we said there are 132. How many of those do you think you watched? So, you know, over 40% said they watched all of them. And then, you know, another 30 or over 30% said, I watched most of them. I mean, that's pretty good. So I would say most of the students watched most of the videos. That was what I would say, which is good. But the reality is, that's not really what I'm caring about. That's not what I'm assessing. But it is good that they're at least watching it. Yes?
Do you have correlation of those that watched all the videos and grades?
No. It's a little hard to know because just we didn't know. We haven't looked at that. I don't, yeah, no. It's a good question, but we didn't do that.
And it might not be correlated because the people who need more help or want more help would be more diligent perhaps.
Yeah.
So I understand.
Sort of hard to know. I mean, the only reason I would want that is to show the students that. I'm thinking, I'm hesitating because I think we did look at that at one point. But I can't.
I'm just curious.
It was definitely correlated.
Yeah, or you could say unless you watch at least 50%, the people who you're more likely to get a passing grade if you watch at least 50%, you can actually.
I think it would be helpful to the students to show them that, right? It would be more motivating to show this actually matters. Did you guys do that?
We didn't do it, but to me, as a math professor, where the lecture material is so similar to what's in a textbook
Right.
a lot of the time, and what you're hoping is to be providing perspective on the material or connecting ideas across, topics, but to be honest, a really well-written textbook could do a lot of what you do in a lecture. To me, the important question is, if it takes a tremendous amount of time to create videos, and we're professors who are not instructional designers,
Right.
therefore we are novice video creators, whereas some textbook writers are expert textbook writers, and we have had some sections here that showed use of textbook rather than video. Is the effort of creating the videos going to be, if you have some other alternative?
Correct.
It would be interesting to do that study where you're teaching
Yeah.
with videos versus teaching with a textbook, and where they're very similar. We matched like my class, and seeing like which one are they actually using, and then how is that correlated with?
And can you bring the perspective to the class, right? So read the book. They still want your perspective, right? That's what you're getting paid to do. That's why you're the expert. but you can bring that perspective into the class in example problems or something like that. Let the textbook do the dry stuff, right?
Right, exactly. Because as an instructional designer, I would claim that it might be better to use a very well-constructed something from someone else rather than create your own videos and then really focus on what you're doing in class.
Yeah, that's the key. That's the key. That's great. Yeah, thank you. And I want to come back to this video at the end in terms of why it doesn't matter as much to me. But I just wanted to share that with you just so you have an idea. Most of the students will watch most of the videos, But as I've said here, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but there are things you can do, which I'll talk about in my suggestions, to make sure that they do watch them. I do think as faculty, it's our responsibility to give them reasons why they have to watch the video, and what we can talk about what some of those are. Okay, so we have this great list of benefits that we've talked about. Now I'm going to talk about challenges. So we talked a little bit about that with horror stories, but for example, I'll tell you, I will maybe tell you my horror story, but I'm feeling safe. But I will tell you other people's horror stories that I've given workshops before where faculty have raised their hand, or I had a woman at a kind of like we don't really have a community college, but it's kind of like a community college, open enrollment, not far from us, and she was teaching chemistry, and she called me, and my dean was ready to fire me because I'm flipping. I mean, it really went bad. And so I was concerned, like, what are you doing to make it go bad? And here's my hypothesis. This is not evidence-based. My hypothesis is that sometimes, I'm talking about students hating it, not your situation where your colleague hates it, okay? So students rebelling, and that's what we're going to talk about, how to avoid that. But actually, and then I was giving another workshop, or just a talk, and there was a woman from, I think, Penn State, from another college, who said the same thing. Oh, it was so terrible, and I'm going to get fired. And I'm like, what is going on with these people flipping, and it's going bad? Here's my hypothesis in my small n number. I think when you flip a class, you get to know your students, and you get to see what they know and don't know. And if that really frustrates you, that they're not learning what you told them they should learn, you may start yelling at them. And if you do that, it's going to go south. So I don't know how else to say that psychologically. I'm not a psychologist, but there's something that if I stand up here and just talk to you, you don't really know what I think about you, right? But if I'm sitting next to you and you're going, I have no idea how to do that, and I'm all of a sudden thinking, you brat, you didn't watch my video, and I spent a lot of time on that video. And all of a sudden, that's coming through me to you, students are going to rebel, right? So without, we can talk about challenges, and I want to do that, but I just want to say to start with, I think some of these I haven't heard such bad horror stories, but I have heard horror stories worse than that about students rebelling, going to the dean fire, this can go, they didn't get fired, but you can't flip or you're going to lose your job type of thing. I'm like, wow. But when I start talking to the faculty, you can hear this sort of disdain for the students or frustration, right? So that's one thing I would say, and I'm going to let you think about challenges, but it's kind of a funny one, right? But when you go to flip, you're actually going to know what the students, you're going to get to know them, and you're going to get to know whether they know stuff or if they're doing what you told them to do, and you got to be careful about that, because that's when students, right? That's when you might start getting a little bit mad at them, I don't know, right? So that would be my very first thing, is be careful, because once you get to know them, you want to be kind to them and considerate to them. Okay, so now I want to give you a chance, do you want to comment on that? Now I want to give you guys a chance to, again, think about these challenges, because this, again, is what I really want us to get out of that. There are challenges that we can avoid. Someone did that on like a quick, the 1 minute deal, here's a problem, here's how to avoid it, here's a problem, here's how to avoid it. And that was really helpful. So I want to make a list of, and if you've already flipped and you've already overcome a challenge, that's fine. Still write the challenge down, and we can talk about how to overcome it. And then after that, I'm going to give you my news. I have an acronym for suggestions for flipping. But first, let's go through the challenges. And then if my news doesn't cover all the challenges, let's brainstorm ways to make sure we know how to address those, okay? All right, so make your list of challenges. You're going to flip the class, or you have flipped it. What do you worry about? There's one.
In the morning.
Without coffee. Yeah, you guys have other challenges. Can you fake it? Can you fake like you know?
We were like 2-year-olds looking at the barrel like it. Never could break the barrel if they had it.
Really?
I have a video of my class that called 15 seconds of silence. And then I have comparison video of the same problem given to my earlier morning class. They're all talking and very engaged, and I have 15 seconds of silence. Because they've been given the same problem. They've been searching all semesters with their partners, class partners, let's go down and also make an English tutor.
So it's some kind of dating.
It was the only class that was happening the whole semester. 3 years. And never figured it out.
It just takes a few.
And it's a few students. And he never ever fixed it. It was not something every semester, every day of my class. Can I do this?
I really think it's 1 or 2 students that can kind of, I don't want to say leave them, but sort of charge.
Yeah, because you realize when you're not there, the dynamic changes.
And it was just, it was
Really interesting. She's Beijing.
Yeah, because I can tell, I think a lot of
Okay, somebody.
students like it.
All mine are mine.
I'm gonna give you guys about 2 minutes, 1.5 minutes to,
I can tell them.
take a look up your neighbor.
Telling them to
Generate new ideas. We'll have to decide. Suggestions, make sure they cover all of our challenges. Okay, so instead of me calling on you, I'm going to ask for popcorn answers. Yes, popcorn. So, like pop, pop. There you go.
Okay, I don't know if this is relevant necessarily to college level, but the teachers, middle school, high school teachers on there, their number 1 challenge is, number 1, how do you get the kids to watch the video?
Yeah.
And number 2, how do you, so let's say they walk into class planning to flip a video, they poll the students, and 30% of the kids watch the videos. So then what then?
Okay, well, let's try to get not to that. Let's do something before so we don't get to that, but okay. So, will the students watch the video? Well, let's not say that, but okay, let's just put it, you know what I mean. So I would say student compliance for video watching. That's probably more technically accurate, okay? Good one. Next.
Will the students be engaged?
Engage with the video? Okay, yeah, that's good. So there's one thing, do we really want them just to watch it, like just sit there? Or do we want them to do something? Right, so engaged or active. So can we challenge us to get them to actively be with the video?
So in a traditional lecture, you're in control the whole time. When you relinquish that control and have the students working, can you manage the classroom effectively to keep people on task when they do something?
So there's actually two things there, right? I mean, one is to manage the class, but there's other thing which is I think important, maybe not in this room because we've all come here knowing that this is what this is about, but there's a real concern on a lot of faculty part of, I don't want to give up control, right? I mean, that's even true with workshops, right? Like, I need to be showing people stuff here to show that I'm expert, so this loss of control is good, yeah.
It seems to me that there's probably a stronger skill set required to do this way in terms of pedagogy.
You think the teacher needs a stronger
The
skill set?
faculty needs
Okay.
stronger skills. Yeah, a range of, interpersonal skills, not to mention
Oh, yeah.
sort of explanations they generate. I mean, all of those strong, good teaching practices.
Yeah.
And if you're sort of a new faculty, that's something that builds over time. It's hard to know how to do that immediately, so.
There's a
just
lot.
kind of getting a handle on content.
Yeah, that skills is really key. I mean, there's not only relationship, which is sort of put down here like that, but this idea that do you know how to relate to people in a way that's positive? But I think the other thing that's related to the control is, and when I first went to Bucknell, they were doing a lot of active learning, and they said, like, don't do this if you don't know the material, because the student will say to you, what about this? And you're like, I don't know, because you haven't taught it enough, right? Or the student solves it in a different way, and you go, I don't know if that's correct. So this is a little bit, I would say for young student, faculty starting out, it can be difficult. I would not tell somebody to flip the class the first time they teach it. I think you've got to get some, you may think you know material until you teach it. I know you all know that, right? You think you know something until you go to teach it, now you know what you don't know. But this is very important. I think you're absolutely right. So not only skills in pedagogy and relationship, but also skills in the technical. Because you're giving up control and you're letting the students go. And so that means you don't get to control exactly what you say, because now you're responding. And that's more chaotic. I think that's really important. That's a great one.
In group work, making sure that the group work doesn't negatively impact an individual student's self-concept. And I'll just give a plug, all of these sessions are being videotaped. And if you didn't get to one of Daryl Young's sessions, he addressed a lot of things about the potential dangers of group work if they're implemented in a way that doesn't attend to the needs of the individual's self-concept.
So if we are doing group work, is it better for that student just to sit there and not be aware of their status as he brought out, that kind of thing? So we've got to be a little bit careful. And it comes back to the skill set, right? If we don't have the skill set to handle these groups and those kinds of things, then we might be putting ourselves a little bit, doing more harm than good. That's very good.
One of the things I worry about is this idea called truth amnesia, where so if the students are teaching each other, one thing I found is that sometimes some of the more confident students aren't necessarily the ones who really know the material well. They're just confident for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And so they may be saying the wrong thing. And so if a student who doesn't know the material is hearing the wrong thing and sometimes hearing the right thing, this idea of truth amnesia is you don't remember which one is necessarily right.
Ooh.
Like this is the problem of Fox News, right?
Right.
Or source amnesia.
Depending on what side you're on. Okay, but we'll I all agree with that. No, you're right. Okay, so truth.
So I don't want the student to hear wrong solutions or wrong ideas from the really confident.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, we're going to come back to that and go ahead and address that.
So, how do you give adequate support for the amount of content that you're covering?
Okay.
And so,
Fred, you were talking about this in your session that I was in the other day. I was saying, look, it's all online, you're responsible for the material. That's true to a degree, but if my class time is getting away from me and I've only managed to cover, if the students have only gone through one of the 12 example problems that I want them to do, and I just shrug and say, well, you guys are responsible for the material, and it's still going to show up in the test anyway. That can be very frustrating for students.
So I want to go back to what you said for managed class time, especially when you're talking about content, right? So actually, I think this managed class time is difficult because you have content, but you also have different learning. Students are at different levels in terms of their understanding. So that's actually something I would put down for my challenge is if I get any class assignment, some students are done in 20 minutes and some students can't finish in 50. So how do you manage that discrepancy where some students are sitting there like done and maybe they're just, okay, just here it is, and another student is really struggling. So I think that's really good.
I think your content has to be taught differently than when you teach. So everything is different. The type of activities, the type of questions, your learning outcomes have to be more active than passive.
But yeah, I think you're totally right. When I first started creating these videos, not the first time I did it in the back of the classroom, but when I actually sat in the studio and made them, I really had to think through, I changed them. But if I were to teach live, I would probably teach the way I did in the video, right? But it sort of puts, so I'm just going to put here, well, can I just say time? Or is there more, takes more time?
It's a different bend. I mean, it's, your assessments are different when you teach online than when if you give a paper pencil.
Okay.
When you teach actively, you have a very different type of, versus like here are these 3 rules. It's, instead of giving them the information, what do you want them to do with the information is what you have to think about.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know, I guess to me, the only thing I can think of is like active versus passive instruction, but that doesn't really, most people aren't going to understand that.
Well, one thing I'm thinking is, so I give a workshop down at Hampton University, and they're using Khan Academy videos for flipping. And what I found challenging, what I challenged them with was, what do you want the students to do with that Khan Academy video? And they really were resistant a lot to this.
I think it's what do you want students to do?
What do you want them to do, right?
That might sum it up.
Yeah, okay, so let me just write that down because that's actually what I want to end with. I guess I would argue that I can't do 2 things at once. Students do. I would argue that even if you're teaching traditionally, you should still answer this question, but maybe you can get away with not answering it as much if you're teaching traditionally. I definitely don't. I think this is something every instructor should think about, whether you're teaching live or flipped, but you have to do it if you're teaching flipped. Maybe that's what you're kind of saying, right?
It just, otherwise it comes off as, it's kind of like putting an online class or a class online when you're scanning in the materials. It's
right.
It's just it's
somehow
the same
you
thing
feel
with
like
different medium. It's not any different. It is dramatically different.
So here's the interesting thing, right? You're saying to the students, I'm putting it on you to learn, right? But then if I'm doing that, then I need to tell you what you need to learn. So you need to scaffold that a little more than you would if it was a traditional course. In a traditional course, I'm the giver of the material, so I give it to you and then you're supposed to give it back to me. But now we're saying you learn it, and then they say, what do I need to learn? Well, here's what you need to learn, right? So it becomes even more important, and that I do want to end with this, to have these learning objectives. Yeah.
I don't know if this is related to that, but one of the things that I think is most challenging about this is coming up with the really good in-class activities to do. And I think in some fields it's easier where you have a lot of problem solving, but in biology, it's a lot harder to figure out.
What do you want? What are you going to do?
What are you going to do in class, and how are you going to relate that to assessments, and how are you going to relate that to learning objectives, and I think it's a little bit.
Yeah, that's great.
I worry, I've never done this before, but I worry a little bit about students knowing where other students are at. There are times when I really like the fact that my class doesn't know that 75% of the class failed a particular quiz. Because I feel like sometimes students feel like, well, she can't fail us all. Like safety in numbers, like and I'm serious. Like if anybody's ever seen like these anonymous sites like Yik Yak and things like that, where students are saying, who screwed for this exam tomorrow? Oh, screw it. Like, you know, and other people are commenting, and so they feel like this real safety in numbers sort of thing, and I feel like this environment kind of opens up.
But if they're saying that, like maybe if they said it in class, if you know that they're all struggling, you as the instructor could say, it looks like you're all struggling, let me ensure you that I am going to fail you all if you don't get it.
Yeah, like, I wouldn't want them to like, you know, if I want to get here at the end of the semester, I don't want them to bring me down to here.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to, you know, we still have to reach this point. And I feel like it's easier for the students to kind of just take you over.
Yeah, that's interesting. How do we, so,
Is that kind of tied into loss of control too?
Yeah, it's definitely a control issue.
It's managing class time and control.
like student power or something, right? Like you're kind of saying that, like they can roll you over, they can overpower you, and not in a physical way, but in a, you know.
Yeah, because I mean, I think sometimes students will like look around at others and they don't know, oh, well, they probably did okay, I'm the only one that failed. Which in some ways, like that stinks, like when their motives are good and they really want to learn the material, like it's nice to know that they're not alone in that, but it can also work the other way where they're like, oh, we're all screwed and she can't, you know, fail us all.
That's
and
an
let's
interesting
get her
perspective,
to,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's.
So I think there was good stuff about that in the, I'll plug it again, the group session yesterday addressed some of those issues. And I think you're talking about setting the tone in the classroom also. So how do you set the tone not only as you're launching an activity, but set the expectations for the tone within the groups and set up the activity in a way that will have the tone and affect in the groups around learning that you're looking for. And I think you're absolutely right on. You know, just one student who walks into your class and goes, you know, to start out your class, as opposed to having one student that's like, what are we going to learn today? You know, like, I had a student like that. Like, no matter what, I got all 4 A series. Oh my God, I've been waiting for 3 years. And it just sets the whole tone. So,
that is exactly what I'm talking about.
How we plant students, I think. Absolutely. How we give you $10 for like the first words in the class are positive.
Yeah, so you're saying like, and I heard you guys talking about it and I kind of chimed in too, like it is possible that class can turn, and your question, maybe hypothesis, is this flip, make a class turn faster that way against you or not? And let's talk about
So what you're somewhat getting at is responsibility, and this is an issue which I feel old saying this, but I feel like a lot less students take responsibility for learning and you put a lot more on the teacher. And this is where I can see a lot of issues with students saying, well, she didn't teach me.
Right.
And there's a huge generation of kids now that are used to be lectured to, so that they think that if you're not lecturing to them, you're not teaching.
Yeah. So I want to put down there, and I want to move on just a little bit because I want to make sure I cover a couple of things. I know I've got it in my content, but it's not vodka promise. But I do want to address the student resistance a little bit because I think it's really big, and it's kind of what you're saying, that if a class turns on you, it's hard to get them back. It really is. So I have a specific suggestion for that. So let me go through my now new acronym. I used to have NEWS, and now I have new so. A colleague of mine is very good at acronyms, and he helped me put this together, the news, and now new so is not quite so good, but it's kind of quick, so maybe I'll come up with something else. This is that paper that I told you about that's in Advances if you really want evidence for different things. That's in there. Okay, so here is my new so approach, okay? Makes it easy. Okay, so this I didn't really address, but I do want to address it because this is an error I made early on. N is for no additional workload. So this is not an opportunity. I don't think it's an opportunity to shove more at the students. If you try to do that, they will rebel, okay? They will get mad. That's what I did my first time. More in-class assignments plus the full homework. So if you're going to flip, and you need to tell them this, okay? So we're flipping the same homework I normally gave, we're gonna do in class, or not quite, I mean, right, because watching 2 hours of video, they should be able to do a little more at home a week than 2 hours of video, but, you know, some of that homework that I normally gave, we're now gonna do in class, and the rest you're gonna do at home, right? So you really have gotta have them believe you that you are not trying to shove more at them, or they will rebel. Experiential learning during class. We talked a lot about what are you going to do during class, and I know other sessions have addressed that as well. I would also say to this needs to be updated, I think, because I would say not only experiential learning, but that learning needs to be tied to a learning objective, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So I think that that has to be an purposeful, as Daryl said, but I would say related to the objective. So what you're doing in class, I mean, I'll tell you what I do. I've been doing clickers in class assignments that replace homework. Okay, but whatever it is, make sure you know what exactly you're doing and why you're doing it. Okay, and that it's active. We've talked a lot about that, I think. And this is really key towards a lot of this, weekly assessment. So we talked about that's one of the benefits of doing more assessment. But I would say specifically, and I'll give you examples of this, but this will help with this. If you have weekly formative and summative assessments, the students will have to watch the video. If they know they're going to have a clicker quiz, I have an online quiz, we have clicker questions, we have in-class assignments, and at the end of every 2 weeks we have a summative quiz. They can't really fall behind. I mean, they can, but there's not a lot of opportunity. So I would definitely say more assessment, more, not that you're trying to ding them, but give them more, maybe I should say weekly feedback would be better, okay? But some of it is assessment. Okay, and then this is, everyone knows this now, so it's a little outdated, but the short video segment. So when I first started, I had the back of the classroom. Okay, if you have a lot of material, just cut it into 5 to 10 minute video segments. Okay, and then and this is new, but I really want to say this is super important for resistance, for all this stuff. Obtain student buy-in early. So the first day of class, I come in and I tell my students, I give them basically a lecture on flipped. I've been researching flipped. You could tell them what you've learned at this conference. When I first started teaching, people told me, do not defend your teaching. Do not tell, I'm a good teacher, don't even tell them that, okay? But in this case, I think this is an exception because they've never seen it before. So I come in and I tell them, I know this doesn't feel comfortable, but this is what we're going to do. And the reason I'm doing this is I believe it's the best thing for you, not the best thing for me. I tell them I like to talk. I like to stand up here and be the sage on the stage. Who doesn't want to do that, right? But I really go through some of the evidence and show them that I believe this is the best thing for them. I also really clearly tell them what exactly I expect from them. But I think that buy-in, and I'll tell you just a story that I had a student a few years ago, and I went through my whole spiel the first day, and you don't want to be defensive about it, but I just said, I really believe in this, I've seen it, I enjoy working with students more this way. And he came up, and I just think that you want us to teach ourselves. First of all, it's not a bad idea, but I didn't say that, right? I mean, there's something about lifelong learning, but I said, I can appreciate that you feel that way. I said, but and you are welcome to believe that. However, I'm actually going to be there to help you more because the way you learn is when you get stuck. That's when you need the help, right? And so you're going to get stuck working on in-class problems, and that's when I'm going to be there to help you. See, where you need the most help is on the homework. I'm not there, but I will be now. So I said that to him, but I said, but you're welcome. We have 2 sections, and so another faculty teaches it traditionally. I said, you're welcome to switch. I mean, whatever you want to do. I understand it's not for everybody, but I told him that. And he stayed in it, and that semester we were doing a lot of this research. We had focus groups and stuff, and so obviously I wasn't in the focus group, but when I got the quotes back from the focus group, I was like, do I know who that student is? And my student who was running the focus group was like, that's supposed to tell me. But it was and let me say, he flipped. So he was like my biggest fan after that, not mine, but the flipped classroom's biggest fan. I didn't think I was gonna like it. It sounded terrible, but it's actually great, right? So I do think that you've got to say that early on, and then be okay with people saying, I'm nervous, and say, I know you're probably nervous about it. This is something new. Let me assure you it's gonna, that kind of thing. I think really important to do that early on.
Do you or other people have a suggestion if you've never done this before? Is that something that you should admit to students?
I don't think you should say I've never done it before going. Rachel, you guys.
I wouldn't do it for the whole class.
You wouldn't flip the whole class?
I would flip one assignment. and put a lot of thought into why you're flipping that particular assignment. And then you can say, you know, I went to a flipped classroom conference, I'm gonna flip this one assignment, I'm gonna ask you for feedback afterwards and try it and get some feedback.
That's a good
And tell
point.
them, you know, so they know you're doing it for the first time and they know it won't be the whole class. And they may say, we love it, keep doing it, you know, do it kind of in the middle.
Yeah,
So they
yeah,
have
yeah.
something to compare it to and see. And even if it doesn't work, you're a novice flipper, so, you know, use the feedback and make it better the next time.
That's a good
But I would
point.
say do not flip a whole class. Just start.
That's a very good suggestion, I think. Yeah.
I have a colleague in physics that says you should never change more than a third of your lectures in any semester, regardless of what you're doing.
Interesting. Just because.
It's because it's too much investment. So, you know, if you don't like, particularly for new faculty, you come in, you say, after the first time you shoot an evaluation back, like, that went awfully.
Right.
So I'm going to completely scrap and redo everything. He said, no. A third at the most.
Make a small change.
And if you want to do the second third after your next year and the third after the next year, okay, but, you know, just make a little bit.
I think the key to this buy-in is to let students know that you're on their side, right? That you're really trying to do what's best for them. And if they think it's because you're lazy and you don't feel like teaching and you just feel like using old videos and not doing anything, and you know, some students really might feel that way, but I think you want to say, I really believe this is the best thing. I really want to work with you. When you get stuck, I want to be there. You know what I mean? Like, that will help them realize that, because it can turn easily where a bunch of students just think this is stupid, you know, and then all of a sudden the whole class turns. That's, yeah.
So one of the things I do with my first year students who are coming out of high school is I try to make a comparison of how much contact time they have with the high school teachers compared to the contact time with the professors. And then try to help them understand that you minus, like I taught high school, I taught an hour and a half a day for 90 days. I had students in Cal 1. It's a heck of a lot of contact time compared to 15 weeks at 4 hours a week. Right, so try to say, okay, and there's a massive difference in those time in those contact hours, and say, so how are we going to do all of this content that you might have your peers saw in high school in this short amount of time, and you know, cite literature and convince them that this is the best way to learn. Not say that I'm not necessarily not excited or early, but this is the best way to learn.
Yeah, that's
But I'm not experimenting on you.
So let me, so anyway, you can remember that, news with an O. But I want to do something else that I just added. Well, okay, I don't need to go through this. You guys know what. Oh, I do want to say one thing about the in-class time. This is something I've struggled with, and I know other people have too. How much time do you actually spend reviewing? So the students, so in my class, the students watch these online videos by Sunday. They take an online assessment. As part of that, they ask a question. Type up a question that I can then look at and use Monday morning. And I have 80 responses. I don't look at all, I mean, I look at all 80, but I only will copy maybe 8 to 10, and then I address those. But I asked the students, this is in one of our research papers, how much time, this is out of 50 minutes, how much time do you want me to review? Because this is the challenge, right? They want you to review, but they also want time to work on the problem. And I've tried before, no review, they don't like that, right? So I would say keep it more towards the 10. Does that, I mean, other people have a similar struggle in terms of, in other words, they watch the video, you don't want to re-lecture, but you also kind of want to address concerns that they have.
Is that minutes?
Minutes. Yeah.
Do you ask them this every class, or is this just the one time you ask them this?
I said in general, how long?
This might be a good thing to do to get feedback from the students of how well they understood things coming into class. So really quick feedback of on this week's material, you know, where are we on the spectrum?
Yeah.
Did you get
But I
it
think
out?
there is ways to get that, right? Online quizzes, if you have
So
access
this
to
is
it,
an easy way to
clickers.
get a quick answer.
You could do it on a clicker or something. How long do you, yeah,
Without clickers.
yeah, you.
So one of the things I don't like to start my class off with a review because I find that it deadens their eyes and all of a sudden it blocks all of the drive. So
Right.
one of the things I do is I pick a good question that I want them to talk about, tell them that I understand, but they may not understand it completely, and give them a limited amount of time to work on 5 minutes, and then we talk about it with an idea like this is how it's the concept in the video, and now this is what we're going to do launching the class. So it's a introductory problem to get their feedback, but I tell them that I don't expect them to know it completely.
Yeah.
I expect them to get stuck, and then we'll have a class discussion.
I think that's key, right? So
Because
you
if
almost.
I start off lecturing, if I start off with a review at first, they look at me and
it's just like, here we are, we're back to, yeah. I'm going to skip through this quickly. I want to get to this. We already said that. I have a new acronym as of 1 hour ago. Okay, I'm really impressed because I came up with it myself without even my colleague, who is my husband, who is my acronym king. I'm like, I came up with my own acronym, and here it is. And actually, this is really important. I would have switched the whole thing, but I didn't really have time. But I think this is really important as you're designing or thinking about the course. And I didn't go with L, I went with, but objectives for learning. I thought owls are smart, right? So kind of a little acronym. Okay, so I think this is critical, and I only have 5 minutes to tell you this, but I think this is so critical that you write out your learning objectives. I'm going to switch through this real quick and then give you examples of learning objectives. This is so important to tie all this together. There are a lot of challenges here that we talked about, and I think a lot of this can be dealt with owls, with the learning objectives. So we start, and I know a lot of people who have studied instructional design, this is what they do, but it's, when I talk to faculty who've been teaching for years, they don't do this. I didn't do this, right? I mean, this is a revelation to me. It's so silly, but it's really true. Okay, so write down what you want them to be able to do. Is that revolutionary? I mean, this is crazy. Yeah, but better than ABET. Better than ABET. ABET is yeah, okay?
A through K, but the...
Better, okay? I've been talking about specific. Okay, I'm just going to run through this quick because I want to show you examples. Then come up with your weekly assessment. So this is what I want them to be able to do. What are my weekly assessments, formative and summative, by the way, to test them that they can do it. Give them opportunities to fail with formative, not fail, but give them opportunities to hit the challenges with formative assessments and then summative. Okay, by the way, this is an order of what you should do. Then think about what are the learning opportunities in class. In-class assignments, clickers, guest speakers, whatever. Tie it all back to learning objectives. So what are you going to do in class to help them with the learning objectives? And then after all that, then you make your short video segments or bulk or whatever. Then you find your resources. Maybe this should be asked for resources. Okay, then you find your resources that you need to do that. So everybody kind of with me on that real quick? My owls is pretty good, thanks. Okay, but, man, I was working hard during the last workshop when I should have been paying attention working on that. Okay, so I really want to, this is revolutionary. These learning objectives, maybe all of you do it, you just think, okay, this lady's doing the workshop, she's crazy. But this is an example, this is how very specific I am. This is one part, this isn't even the entire module. This is half of the learning objective for one module, but I couldn't fit them all on one slide. Okay, but look at that, describe, these are very active, so be very careful not to say no, learn, be exposed to.
Understand.
Okay, what do you want them to do? And when you write them, make sure you know how to assess them. What quiz exam question would you write that would test that they can do that thing? So describe the difference between, in terms of, identify. So this is just matching, right? All right? Calculate. A lot of them are going to be calculating engineering. They are, right? Given this, calculate that. Given that, calculate that. That's appropriate for what we want them to be able to do. And then I would say when you're doing that, now you've got lots of ways to assess it. So if you have clicker questions or online quizzes or something like that, both, I do both, I would say the low Bloom's taxonomy stuff should be covered in those. The higher end stuff is calculate. That can all be done in class activities. So I don't know your class and what you want to do, but I've heard from some people, biology, some other people that say, I don't know what to do in class. Once you write your learning objectives, that will guide what you're going to do in class. Because you'll say, I want them to be able to, what do you want them to be able to do? Once you know that, you can design your in-class activities to map to that. And then you can have your assessments map to that. And it's really been revolutionary to me, like I said, to look at that. And when I write my exams, I say, oh, wait, I didn't write it. I've never actually asked them on an exam this thing that I told them they need to be able to do. So I'm going to leave this up for you. There's, did I put the website there? Up at the top there. If you look up learning objectives, which I did today, you'll find something like this, and there's some great stuff out there. This is based on Bloom's, but there's Blooms can be a little bit, I think, tricky depending on your, so this is a nice, I'm gonna pass these out here, right, because we've got those too. But I would really encourage you to think about that. So this is low order thinking, higher, recall, recognize, remember, and then all the way up to create. The other thing I want to say about learning objectives, do not feel bad if your course does not take them to the highest level of Bloom. It probably will not, unless you're teaching a design course, unless you're at a graduate level. It's okay if a lot of your, I mean, you don't want to stay in the first level of Blooms, you want to go a little bit beyond that. But producing, planning, you may not have a course that's part of the objective.
There's another taxonomy out there besides Bloom called Webb's Depth of Knowledge.
Okay.
And that it takes, and it does a little bit of a reorganization of Bloom's. It has the same basic ideas.
Yeah. But I think the key is those active verbs. You want to look at those active verbs. You want the students to be able to. And I put it very clearly on my homeworks, on my in-class assignments, so that they know. And then they say, what's the biggest question? What's going to be on the quiz? And I say, you should be able to. And then you better make sure your quiz matches those. Because if not, they'll say, well, you said it, you know. So I'm going to put this, I know I just threw that at you at the last minute, probably the most important thing I had to say. I'm going to put this back here with Rachel. You wonder. But don't make her put it in. She's going to hurt herself. Anyway, it's 2, so I don't want to hold you any longer, but I'll be here to address any questions that you have. And thank you all for participating so heavily, even as late as you did.